For 7 centuries, the samurai stood as Japan's living shield, sworn to their lords, bound by honor, and haunted by a truth few outsiders ever understood. To live perfectly, one must first accept death. They called it Bushidō, the way of the warrior. Not merely a code of combat, but a philosophy of life and death, carried in silence, spoken only through action. For 7 centuries, the samurai stood as Japan's living shield, sworn to their lords, bound by honor, and haunted by a truth few outsiders ever understood. To live perfectly, one must first accept death. But by the time the 19th century dawned, their world was already dying. Foreign ships loomed on the horizon, ancient loyalties cracked under the weight of a new age, and the last true masters of the blade knew that their secrets, the discipline, the rituals, the hidden arts passed master to student in candlelit rooms, might vanish with them forever. Tonight, we step behind the legend, beyond the armor, beyond the myth of the invincible swordsman, into the tea houses where wars were quietly decided, into the bamboo forests where children became killers, into the final, fading days of the samurai, and the code that refused to die with them. This is their story. Long before steel met steel, the samurai were born of the land itself, farmers and guardians, sworn to protect fields that fed a nation. Training began young. A boy of 7 might already know the weight of a wooden blade and the heavier weight of duty. Every blade was treated as a living thing, cleaned, honored, and never drawn without purpose. Ancestors watched from the shrine. To dishonor the family name was a fate feared more than death itself. Loyalty flowed upward to the daimyo, the lord of the land, whose word could send 1,000 warriors to their deaths. Mothers raised warriors knowing they might one day mourn them. It was a grief woven quietly into daily life. Discipline was relentless. A single sloppy strike could mean the difference between victory and a family's ruin. Before the sword became legend, the bow was the samurai's first true weapon, precision valued above brute force. Their code was rarely written, yet everyone understood it. Honor, courage, and quiet self-control, the pillars of Bushidō. Where battles once raged, nature quietly reclaimed the land, a gentle reminder that all things, even legends, must pass. In hidden forges, master smiths folded steel 1,000 times, believing each fold trapped a fragment of the swordsmith's spirit. The quenching moment was sacred. One wrong second could ruin months of devoted labor. A finished katana was more than a weapon. It was considered the soul of the samurai made visible. Before battle, warriors would kneel with their blade, not praying for victory, but for the clarity to accept whatever came. Duels were rarely about rage. They were conversations of stillness, decided in the half-second before the draw. Iai-jutsu, the art of the sudden draw, could end a duel before either blade was fully seen. Victory was measured not by how one fought, but by how little violence was truly needed. Masters spent decades perfecting a single technique, believing true mastery had no final destination. Each blade in the armory carried its own name, its own history, its own quiet legend. To carry the sword well was to carry restraint. The mark of a true master was rarely drawing it at all. Beyond the battlefield, the samurai sought a different kind of strength, the stillness taught by Zen Buddhism. Meditation trained the mind to remain calm even when facing death, a skill as vital as swordsmanship. It was here, in quiet tea houses, that warriors learned the discipline of patience. The tea ceremony was a ritual of precision, every motion deliberate, every silence meaningful. Rivals might share tea in peace, setting aside blades to speak as equals, if only for an hour. The tea master's bow was not submission. It was the highest form of respect one could offer another. Every stone on the path was placed with intention, guiding the mind toward tranquility before the ceremony began. Even imperfection was honored. The samurai called it wabi-sabi, beauty found in what is fleeting and flawed. In stillness, warriors confronted the fears that steel alone could never conquer. It was said a warrior who mastered tea could face any battlefield with an unshaken heart. Deep within Japan's bamboo forests, hidden schools trained warriors far from prying eyes. Bamboo taught precision. Too soft a strike bent the stalk. Too hard shattered the blade's edge. Not all warriors fought in the open. Some moved as shadows, trained in secrecy and silence. Whispered legends spoke of covert agents, masters of stealth, who served lords no one dared name. Isolation was part of the training. Mountains tested endurance long before any enemy did. Balance, both physical and mental, was drilled relentlessly. For a warrior who could not stand steady could not strike true. Masters taught that speed without control was simply chaos dressed as skill. Broken practice swords littered the training grounds, proof of lessons paid for in bruises and humility. Some sought the icy waterfalls, believing pain endured in silence sharpened the spirit like steel. As night approached, the forest fell silent, but its secrets remained, guarded for centuries. Loyalty to one's lord was absolute, a bond considered stronger than family, stronger even than life. Vows were not spoken lightly. Some were sealed in blood, binding warrior to lord until death. To fail one's lord was to lose everything: status, family honor, and one's very place in the world. Behind castle walls, wars were often decided not by swords, but by strategy whispered in candlelit rooms. Messages of life and death traveled by horseback across treacherous terrain, carried by riders sworn to secrecy. To be gifted a sword by one's lord was among the highest honors a warrior could receive. Even in defeat, honor mattered more than survival. A dishonorable retreat was a fate worse than the grave. Behind every stoic expression lived a man who felt fear, grief, and doubt like any other. Clan wars could reduce generations of legacy to ash within a single terrible night. Loyalty did not end with death. Warriors mourned fallen comrades as they would mourn family. Not all warriors were men. The Onna-bugeisha, women of the samurai class, trained fiercely to defend their homes. Their weapon of choice, the naginata, allowed smaller warriors to strike from a powerful distance. Mothers passed these skills to daughters, ensuring the household could defend itself when the men rode to war. History remembers Tomo Gozen, said to have fought as fiercely as any man on the battlefield. Many carried a small blade hidden in their sash, a final measure of protection and of honor. While husbands and sons fought distant campaigns, women often governed entire households and estates. Their strength was rarely loud, yet it held entire clans together through decades of turmoil. Their courage remains one of the era's most overlooked, yet most remarkable legacies. True mastery required more than the sword. Many samurai were also poets, painters, and scholars. Calligraphy demanded the same focus as swordsmanship. One hesitant stroke could ruin the entire page. Art was not a distraction from war, but a discipline believed to sharpen the warrior's mind. Many wrote poems before battle, aware it might be the last verse they ever composed. Knowledge of history, strategy, and philosophy was considered as vital to leadership as the sword itself. The ideal warrior balanced two forces: bun and byu, the pen and the sword, wisdom and strength. Japan's history was shaped by powerful clans, each vying for control through both diplomacy and war. Battles were fought not just with swords, but with meticulous planning and psychological discipline. Great generals studied terrain as carefully as they studied their enemies, turning landscape into weapon. Signals of silk and painted fans could command thousands of warriors across a battlefield in silence. When diplomacy failed, entire provinces could be decided in a single, brutal afternoon. Victory rarely felt like triumph. Even winning generals mourned the cost etched into every battlefield. Sieges could last months, testing not just strength, but the patience and unity of an entire clan. The greatest strategists understood a hard truth. Sometimes the wisest victory was the battle never fought. By the mid-1800s, a new threat arrived, not by sword, but by sail. Foreign powers demanded Japan open its borders. For centuries, Japan had remained closed to the world. Now, that isolation was ending, whether the samurai wished it or not. Negotiations replaced battlefields. Warriors trained for combat now found themselves fighting with words instead. Some samurai saw modernization as inevitable progress. Others saw it as a betrayal of everything they had sworn to protect. A generational divide emerged. Sons embracing new weapons and ideas, fathers clinging to ancient tradition. Even the forges changed. Gunpowder began to replace the graceful arc of the blade. The world the samurai had known for 7 centuries was quietly, irreversibly, coming to an end. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration shook Japan to its core, stripping samurai of their ancient privileges. Many were ordered to abandon their swords entirely, a devastating blow to warriors who had defined themselves by the blade. Some refused to surrender their way of life, rallying under old banners for one final desperate stand. In 1877, the Satsuma Rebellion became their last great battle, traditional warriors against a modernized army. They fought not expecting to win, but believing their honor demanded nothing less than the attempt. The rebellion ended in defeat. The age of the sword had finally given way to the age of the rifle. Yet even in defeat, their final stand became legend, a symbol of unwavering conviction. Though the samurai class was formally abolished, their teachings did not vanish. They simply moved into the shadows. Secret dojos preserved forbidden techniques, passed quietly from master to student, hidden from a modernizing government. Family scrolls detailing sword techniques and philosophy were hidden like treasure, protected across generations. Former warriors became merchants, teachers, and farmers, yet many kept a single blade close, a quiet reminder of who they once were. Their techniques evolved into modern martial arts, judo, kendo, aikido, carrying the warrior's spirit into a new century. Even today, families quietly pass down fragments of these ancient teachings. Unaware, they carry centuries of hidden history. Walk into any kendo hall today, and you'll witness echoes of the samurai's discipline, still alive in every strike. The tea ceremony endures, a living bridge connecting modern Japan to its warrior past. The bamboo forests still stand, silent witnesses to centuries of hidden training and whispered secrets. Preserved swords now rest behind glass, admired not as weapons, but as masterpieces of devotion and artistry. Bushidō's principles, honor, discipline, respect, still shape Japanese culture in ways both subtle and profound. Stillness, once a warrior's weapon against fear, remains a cherished practice for millions seeking inner peace. Japan itself stands as a living monument to the samurai, resilient, disciplined, and quietly extraordinary. Each artifact that survives tells a story words alone could never fully capture. Family crests, once symbols of pride and terror on the battlefield, now quietly mark forgotten homes. Shrines dedicated to legendary warriors still draw quiet visitors, seeking connection to a vanished world. Festivals across Japan still celebrate this legacy, armor gleaming once more beneath modern skies. Even children today learn fragments of this ancient discipline, carrying the code forward without fully realizing it. Preserved homes offer rare glimpses into daily life once lived entirely by a warrior's code. The values they lived by, honor, loyalty, discipline remain timeless, transcending the era that birthed them. Perhaps the greatest secret of the samurai was never the sword at all. It was the mastery of self, controlling fear, ego, and impulse long before ever controlling a blade. True strength, they believed, was quiet. It needed no audience, no proof, no declaration. Where battles once raged, nature quietly reclaimed the land, a gentle reminder that all things, even legends, must pass. Yet something of the samurai remains woven into Japan's very spirit, present in every quiet gesture of respect. Even today, a handful of swordsmiths continue this ancient art, refusing to let the tradition fade into memory. Respect, once exchanged between warriors before combat, is now passed quietly between teacher and student. Castles that once echoed with the clash of steel now stand as peaceful monuments to a remarkable history. Visitors from around the world now come simply to witness fragments of this extraordinary legacy. Every detail, down to the smallest engraving, reflected an artistry inseparable from purpose. Seasons changed, empires rose and fell, yet the quiet lessons of the samurai endured through it all. Their stories continue to inspire storytellers, ensuring each generation rediscovers this remarkable code. As twilight falls, one truth remains clear. The samurai's greatest legacy was never conquest, but character. Honor, discipline, stillness, loyalty. These were never just words to the samurai. They were a way of living and of dying. Though their era ended over a century ago, the code they lived by still whispers through Japan's mountains, gardens, and quiet halls. Perhaps that is the truest secret of the hidden masters, that their greatest victories were fought silently, within themselves. And in that quiet mastery, they became something greater than warriors. They became legends. Their code endures, not carved in steel, but carried quietly in every act of honor, patience, and courage. Thank you for joining this journey into the hidden world of Japan's legendary warriors. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, please follow and subscribe to my channel for more stories.